What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're going to be going ahead and making a video on kind of like a forgotten Sugo Fest exclusive, and mainly due to the fact that Zoro and Sanji exist, is definitely part of the reason why this character doesn't really see any play anymore in Treasure Cruise. But when this guy came out, man, people were all over this guy. One of the big things about this Enma Zoro is that he is pretty difficult to use. In order to use him effectively, you really need a character on your crew that can generate Wano slots for you very efficiently. In this specific crew example, we've got the Momonosuke character. At the start of the quest, they set all your slots to Wano. This is one of the best characters to be using, but obviously another character that everyone knows about is Legend Hiyori. She is phenomenal with this Zoro. Zoro does have a super tandem as well, which, you know, Hiyori can actually be one of the units to trigger the super tandem ability of Zoro. But that Hiyori is fantastic with this unit, being able to generate Wano slots on special as well, lock slots, get rid of, you know, Bind Despair, whatever it may be. So yeah, like, you need to have one of these units to make Zoro actually work. For those of you who don't understand how Zoro works, the way that he gets his max potential from his captain ability is you have to consume 10 Wano slots, and then that will fill up his gauge, and then that enables you to activate his buffed captain ability. In this team example against Crocodile, you see that I did use it on this stage in order to get the damage limiter on the enemy side of the field to be doubled, which is also one of the benefits from doing this gauge effect with Zoro. But one of the main downsides to it is that after the turn of attacks, you lose 60% of your max HP, and if you can't fulfill that HP loss, then your captain ability gets severely nerfed for the rest of the run. So there's lots of downsides to Zoro. I feel like the best way to use Zoro is in a Kizuna Clash standpoint, because if you're just doing your burst turn, you don't really need to worry about your HP that remains. And typically with the way that Zoro is kind of built, you want to be using him on a burst turn because of the way that his special works, granting you a increased damage taken conditional boost. And if you tap on him, he will inflict increased damage taken to the opponent, and he also does have super effective damage as well. So there's a lot of benefits to actually going out of your way to get Zoro to work properly, but considering some of the characters that we have these days, Zoro unfortunately just really won't see a lot of play. It really is a shame, because this character is so cool, his animations are fantastic, his sprite looks awesome as well, being able to switch into his Enma form and stuff like that. He does have a pretty good set of skills, but when Zoro and Sanji exist, like, there's not really much point in using a character such as this. I mean, you talk about like Zoro and Sanji in tandem with, you know, Luffy versus Kaido, and, you know, Shanks versus Kid, and Cross Guild, being able to use all these characters together. This character, unfortunately, is just kind of power crept. Looking at the bright side though, there are still going to be some niche circumstances where Zoro is actually going to be good. One of the main benefits from using his captain ability is when you activate his max capacity captain, when you've consumed 10 Wano slots, it will have the ability to double enemies' damage limiter. Now, damage limiter is one of the most pesky debuffs to get around. Previous to this, Legend Frankie with his Shogun, General Shogun effect, was able to actually bypass this. Unfortunately, since that point, they have actually, patched that out. So unfortunately, General Frankie has now become pretty much semi-useless. He did have a use beforehand, but not so much anymore. But Zoro, on the other hand, does have the ability to double the max capacity of damage limiters. So he, I think, is the only character in the game that can, like, just straight up kind of get around it. There are characters in the game that can remove one turn of enemy beneficial effects, like Psy Gear 5 Luffy. So that is also a way around it, so long as that effect only lasts for a very limited amount of turns. But Zoro does have the ability to double it. So hypothetically, if they've got 10 million HP and they have a damage limiter of 5 million, being able to double that to 10 million so you can actually kill them in that turn, it actually is a pretty big deal. There are other ways around it as well, with like health cuts and then like poison effects. Like in this specific piece of content against Caesar, the way that you would normally get around it when it first came out is to use Legend Reiju. Legend Reiju would inflict her Reiju poison, which basically does like a huge health cut against them, which kind of bypasses this effect. So Zoro is like one of the other characters in the game that does have the ability to do this. In this circumstance though, you can see that The damage limiter is 20 million. He actually has 45 million HP, so even if we do double the damage limiter, we won't actually kill him in one turn. But what this does enable us to do is that we can kill Caesar in 2 turns rather than 3 turns, what you would normally do previously. And due to that, it means that we can actually bypass one of the turns of gimmicks that he would normally inflict on us. So that does make a pretty big difference, makes it a little bit easier to deal with for sure. Zoro was also really good to use back in the day because his super tandem does actually buff both conditional boosts that he buffs any conditional boost on his super tandem by, I think it's 0.5. So it was very similar to Legend Nami with her super tandem ability being able to buff conditional boosts, but this is kind of a little bit stronger. The super tandem was a little stronger. Zoro himself had a super tandem, and he also had a lot of other effects like being able to proc that self-procking increased damage taken conditional boost, being able to stack that with Legend Robin, for example, and then being able to go ham on that. Like that was a really nice combination that you could use with this guy. But of course, you know, as time has progressed, there are just way more powerful combinations of super tandems that you could kind of abuse. And as you can see in this circumstance here against Caesar, we've done the first turn of attacks. We can now double that damage limiter, and then we can go in for the knockout against him. And remember, when Zoro has his fully Enma gauge activated, he will become super effective against all types. So color affinity in this circumstance is going to be even more potent, which really helps out. Zoro obviously is very good in Pyre Rumble as well. We're not going to be like showing any Pyre Rumble content in this video today, but he's very good in Pyre Rumble as a defensively focused character. Another really good thing about Zoro as well, if you're using him as a captain, if you run characters that are Slasher or Free Spirit that are also Strength, Dex, and Quick, they actually get a ton of cooldown reduction at the start of the quest. He gives Strength, Dex, Quick -2, and then Slasher, Free Spirit get -1. So -3 with his Captain ability was massive, but the problem is that you need to take your time. You need to consume these Wano slots before you get to the final boss stage, so it is a little counterintuitive that he has cooldown reduction, but you actually need to get certain slots in order for it to work. There are some other benefits in order to do this though. Obviously, you can activate his Enma effect while it's not at full gauge, and what that will do is that you'll still lose a bit of HP at the end of every turn. But if you activate, if you attack with a super effective damage, it will guarantee a Wano slot on that character. So if you build your team effectively, you can kind of speed run the content, so long as you have characters that are super effective, being able to generate Wano slots every turn, so you don't really have to worry about stalling and getting things to work properly. So that is something to note as well. But Zoro being able to be Slasher Free Spirit, he synergizes well with a ton of characters. Obviously, in this team example, we're using a friend captain Psy Gear 5 Luffy to bypass defensive effects, which is one of the key things that you should be doing against the Queen Arena content. But overall, Zoro's a really fun character. He has really good animations, great visuals, great aesthetics. Love this character's just visual design overall. It's just unfortunate that he's a little tricky to use. But anyway, it was a lot of fun to go back and visit this Super Sugo Fest exclusive character. Definitely a really powerful unit. Hopefully you enjoyed this video though. If you did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
"十分君臨したろ。席を空けろ。